Pizza is arguably the greatest meal on the face of the planet. So I am here to convince you today, right now, that pizza is the greatest meal on the planet. So the learning objective, by the end of this presentation, you will be craving this delicious meal. No matter how gooey it is, no matter the size or the shape, or the proportions, just whatever, you are going to crave my mom's homemade pepperoni pizza. So let's get into how to make this monster. Step one is we make the dough. Now the dough is made up of a cup of warm water, a tablespoon of yeast, a teaspoon of sugar, a tablespoon of olive oil, all mixed together, and you let it sit for 2 to 5 minutes to let the yeast activate this part of the dough. During this time that this is activating, you're going to preheat the oven for 425 degrees. When you come back to the mixture, what you should find is this perfect foaminess. That's what you're looking for. You can let it sit for a little longer if you need to, but this perfect foaminess is what we're looking for, as light as a feather pillow. Then you put it into a bowl and you add around 2.5 cups of flour. You might add a little more, you might add a little less, depending on the weather and humidity, because science! Then you add a teaspoon of salt and you mix it all up, and eventually what you'll get is you'll have to knead the dough with the heel of your hand, not your foot, your hand. And what you'll end up getting is like this stretchy, almost Play-Doh-y type of texture. You'll know after you do this a couple of times. Then you take the dough, and we're going to prepare the crust. So you take out a pan, you spread olive oil across the surface of the pan, and you put your now perfectly made fluffy dough onto the pan. You're going to flip it over because now you allowed the olive oil to spread across one surface. And then you're going to start spreading it around. You get a pin roller or whatever with your hands, and you'll just get it all the way out to the edges of the pan. From there, you're able to add garlic powder or real garlic if you'd like, and then you break out the toppings. Everything is great on pizza, pretty much. So, classic tomato sauce, pour a pile of it on there, grab a spoon, spread it across the surface. You take out the classic and the most famous topping of pizza, mozzarella cheese. You can put some Parmesan cheese if you'd like, just whatever. My family loves using real, emphasis on real pepperoni, not that turkey or chicken stuff that people come out with now and then. Real pepperoni. And you can put on however much you'd like on the pizza. It really just depends with you. Next, of course, you put it in the oven because raw pizza doesn't taste good, and you let it cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. What you should get when the timer goes off is you should get out a spatula, lift up the dough and see if it's stretchy. If it's still stretchy and wobbly, then let it cook for a little longer. It should be stiff by the time it's done. While it's cooking, clean up the mess you made because you don't want an angry mom. And when the pizza is done, you cut it, serve it out, and the pan should look like this, minus one piece of pizza. And it should all be in your stomach and whoever else's stomach, and it was amazing. I came up with this new app because you guys couldn't be here to share this wonderful pizza. So you take the mouse and you scratch this picture, and maybe you can get a whiff of my mom's glorious pizza. Maybe. I don't know. No promises. So let's get into what makes pizza so wonderful and glorious. First reaction, chemical reaction, is the dough. When you mix the yeast mixture and the flour together, what happens is if you allow it to sit, the yeast attacks the compounds of the flour and the sugar, and in doing this, it releases carbon dioxide. And what this causes is it pushes the dough up, causing it to rise. And this is what it looks like if you let it rise. You can let it rise for 12 hours, 5 minutes, 48 hours, it doesn't really matter. So, and if you let it sit for a little longer, what will happen is the yeast will run out of molecules to break down in the flour and the sugar. So what will happen is it'll start targeting other compounds. And what this does is it creates these new compounds. So when you heat up the pizza, it causes the dough to just have this new layer of flavor that you wouldn't get anywhere else. This is actually the same dough. This one was allowed to rise for about 24 hours. This one was just made and baked. Another reaction, some of you might not know what this is the Maillard reaction. And what happens in this is it pretty much results in food browning. So what happens in this reaction is sugars and amino acids are taken, and the high heat from the oven cooks it up, and it causes it to crisp and brown. So the cheese browning and melting and the dough crispifying, that's because of the Maillard reaction. And then it comes down to the toppings. As always, everyone loves toppings on their pizza. One of the really nice toppings to add on pizza is tomato sauce. And that's because tomato sauce gives a wonderful contrast of pH, which is a scientific term that's used to identify whether a substance is acidic or basic. And they use a scale from 0 to 14. Any substance that has a pH of 0 to 6, it's acidic. Tomato sauce is around 4, has a pH of about 4. If it's neutral, it's 7, like water. And then basic is anything over 7 to 14, meaning it's a little more of a bitter taste. And this wonderful, zingy, bright contrast, bright tomato sauce contrasts really well with this dough. It always comes down to the dough and the toppings and just it being cooked up and the smell and just how wonderful pizza is. And I hope that you are craving pizza now because pizza's amazing. And I hope that when you take my recipe, my mom's recipe, and you enact on it, you don't look like this, because that wouldn't be very good. Thank you.